Hey guys, good evening. I hope I'm pretty much audible as well as visible. Great. So we did not have session yesterday, so there was some technical challenges and we couldn't go live. Apologies for that. So there was some issue in the session yesterday. But again, we are live pretty much today, and then we'll be talking about uh, things on pandas with strings. So that's our agenda for the day. So we'll be doing some pandas computation on strings, and we are pretty much into data analysis in 3 weeks. That's our playlist, and we'll be ending our playlist with maybe remaining 2 more sessions. So after this, will be 2 more sessions. So today, tomorrow, and on Monday. So we'll be closing in the next 3 days. So that's pretty much our session is left in pandas. And today we'll be doing, after pandas and strings, we'll be doing some questions. So you remember one time we did some questions on pandas. So I believe after doing those questions, you must have realized what different things you can do. So likewise, the agenda would be to solve some questions, and I would want you guys to be really active today and try to solve the questions along with me. Great. So with this, let's start the session, and we're pretty much into data analysis in 3 weeks, and we'll be talking about pandas and strings today. Okay, great. So before doing anything, let me quickly introduce myself. So you know my name is Arpit, and I'm a lead data scientist myself. I have been in industry for almost 9 years now, into multiple domains. That is, telecommunication, manufacturing, automobiles, multiple domains I've been working with. And along with this, I'm also a motivational speaker. So I take up industry sessions and talk to students regarding their jobs, careers, so any questions regarding your job, placements, career drives, right? So feel free to ask your questions. I'll be more than happy to answer those. Okay. But again, so that's about myself. I'll quickly move to the content, that is pandas and strings. So let me know once my screen is pretty much visible to you. I hope my screen is visible. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible, right? Great. So just a quick yes or no in the chat, guys. I hope you guys are with me. Okay. Great. So let's start. Pandas with strings, right? So what are, first of all, pandas? So pandas you know anyway, so it's an odd library used for data analysis work, and strings are one of your data types which you deal with in Python, right? So you have numbers also you have multiple types, then you have strings, characters. So that's one of the odd data types which you deal with. So likewise, strings computation is pretty much possible in pandas as well. So here you can see we are starting with a very good function. So in pandas we have multiple such functionalities available which actually helps you to work on strings. So the very first function you can see here is lower, right? So pretty much on your screen here. So lower is the very first function, is I think one of the very commonly used functions available. So likewise lower we have upper as well. So I'll show you both of them. So what does lower do in your coding? So as pretty much clear, the code for the function is pretty much clear. It converts the strings into the lower cases, right? It does not matter whether that character, it converts the entire character into a lower case, okay? So it does not really matter whether that character is at first place, second place, last place, whatever, okay? And also important to understand this. For example, I'm creating a series element here. So what is a series element? Comprising of multiple sub-elements, right? So you can see this, I have Arpit. So here in Arpit, I have A as capital, right? Then I have Arpit Jain. So in this, I have multiple characters. So A is capital, and then I have a space also. And then I have Jain, all Jain characters are caps, right? And then I have Rohit, and then I have Arpit @1234, and then I have np.nan. There's a nan element also. And then I have 1234 as a number, then I have Arpit Jain together. So different types of characters, right? Different types of string. If anybody is having any concerns, tell me no. Just let me know the question. I'll answer that. Okay. So here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add different types, different complexities, different flavors of strings which you can have, right? So you can see there's something could be like Arpit @1234. So I have @ as a special character, then I have a string, I have a number, all together combined as one string. So how I'm telling you this thing, because it is enclosed under a quote, right? Likewise here, this number 1234. This is not a number here. I've enclosed it under quotes, so it is not a number anymore, it's a string for me, okay? So I'm passing it everything as a string, but different types of string, right? So now what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to convert it into a lower form. So lower is nothing but how to call this. So the way to call the string operation is, it is very important. So you have to first make sure that you call the str function. Okay, so str means that now you are specifying this s to be string, and whatever functionality is lower, upper, whatever I'm talking about, that is one of the module, one of the object of my string class. Okay, so to call the function you have to write s.str, so making sure that you're calling the str operation on top of this. So now once you do this s.str.lower, what you can find is, so everything whatever you have as a character, as a caps lock, will be converted into your lowercase. Okay. Now important thing to understand here is, see, can you see this Arpit Jain? So whatever character I have, irrespective of the position of my characters, it will be replaced with a lowercase, right? So that's what I have here. Likewise here Rohit, and you can also see that Arpit at the rate 1, 2, 3, 4 does not really matter, because numbers won't be, there's no uppercase and lowercase in the number, right? So ultimately at the rate 1, 2, 3, 4 will remain the same, but however I still had A as caps here, so now this A has converted into a smaller A, right? So whatever way you pass, whatever things you pass, right, it's gonna be converting things into your lowercase. That's pretty much what we have. Okay. Hi Vasanta, hi Ashish, thank you for joining us. Great. So that's pretty much for the lower one. Quickly, let's move myself to the upper one. So same string. So I mean, you can also convert the entire cases into upper one also. So for example, here you can see this. Pretty much simple. So if you convert this into upper, it's going to have all the characters into uppercase. Pretty simple. So all the characters again here by default will be converted into an uppercase, right? So if you do it like this, plain simple as that. So all the characters from your elements here will be converted into an uppercase. So I have A, R, B, I, T. So whatever way you pass, it does not really matter. So it's just a way you write the things here, right? And again, when you can see this, so 1, 2, 3, 4 again, there is irrespective of the fact that there is a lowercase or uppercase, just a number, right? So you cannot really convert a number to an uppercase, but again, it won't give an error. So the reason why I'm writing this, it won't give an error. It's just that you can still pass it over your elements. That's not going to be a problematic thing. Okay. So the third function is again a very interesting function, length. So I've been using length for quite some amount of time. So I've been using length function along my list also, right? So you remember, so we were counting the number of elements of my number of elements in my list data type. So we were using the function len. So this len was giving us the number of sub-elements available under my data class, which is list, right? But what if I call this length over my s? For example, I'll show it to you. Okay, so for example, I'm creating a element. So s here, so s is nothing but a series element. So series element I have basically, there's a list of such sub elements I have. So how many elements are there? There are 7 elements, right? So there are 7 elements right now. Okay, so there are 7 elements. If I put length of s, it's going to give me the length of this series object. So I have output as s, 7, right? Now, so how can I access, just to tell you that, so I can access the sub elements as s of 0, I can do that, right? So if I write s of 0, I'll be getting the first element. Now, what if I pass the length function on top of this s of 0? So now in this case, s is very flexible. So it's not, the length function is very flexible. In this case, I was passing length on top of my entire series element. So that's where the sub elements become 4, because I have 4 sub elements of my upper class, which is my series element here, right? But what if I pass this length over s of 0? So s of 0 now in this case becomes a string for me. And what is that? It is Arpit, right? Now in this case, how to count the length here? What will be the length here? In this case, the length will become the number of characters in this, okay? So length is very flexible in such a way. So if you want to pass length on top of a string object, instead of, so the inner sub blocks of a string is its characters, right? So in this case, it will be finding you the number of characters you have. So if you call length of s of 0, then I'll be getting 5 in this case. This will still work. It won't give you an error. It will still work. Now here in this case, it will give you the number of characters for you. So first case, 7 is my length of s. That means that the number of elements, that is Arpit is 1 element, Arpit Jain is 1 element, likewise 7 such elements. Now length of s of 0 means sub characters available under my first string, which is Arpit. That's the difference. Okay? And it is pretty much flexible. We can use this function either way, pretty much fine. Okay? Another interesting function you have under strings is strip. Okay, strip is again a very good function, very good function. I'll show you how we use that. So this function is useful to remove the white spaces from both the sides. So what are white spaces? So I mean, whenever you write something, right, you tend to have a leading space characters, leading or a trailing space characters. So for example, here, can you see this? In this example, I'm just gonna put things down. So to make it more clear, can you see this? Here in this first string, okay, so I have a starting empty character. Can you see this? I have a starting empty character, which is a blank space for me, right? Likewise, here you can see this, I have an ending space character. So can you see this? I have a space at the end. I have a white space at the end. But also to notice that this space, the inner space between my two sub words I have. So Arpit is the first word, Jain is the first word right in this string, for example. So here this space is different. So this space is giving the distinction between my first name and the last name. This is important. This spacing is important. But this spacing, which is at the end, which is my white space, the trailing white space, this is not important. This is an additional unwanted spacing I have, right? So this is where white space removal is very important. So strip is the function where you're gonna remove the leading and the trailing white spaces and leaving the needed spaces behind. It won't remove the wanted, so needed spacing which is in between your characters. It will only remove the leading or the trailing white spaces. Okay? Make sense, guys? Are you able to understand? Any questions? Great, so let me show you the example. So for example, if you see this, if I print the length of, I'm just gonna comment this for now. Now if you see the length of my S of 1, which is what? So this my first character, right? So first index. Now count the number of characters we have. A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I have a spacing which is also a character, that is 6. And then I have 7, 8, 9, 10. Then again I have a space 11. So I have 11 characters here, right? So that is the reason why my length is 11, where out of these 11, there are 2 white space characters, okay? One white space, not a white space, I would say space bar in between the words, which is after the then, which is a required one, and another white space at the end, which is not required, right? Now, once I call this strip function, so I'm gonna, on top of this series element, I'm gonna call the strip function, okay? Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to print the length of S of 1 again, and in this time I'm expecting the length to be what? Not 11, I want this to be 10, right? And not 9 also, I don't want it to be 9, I want it to be 10, because I only want this white space to be removed, right? And I'm going to again, I'm also printing this S of 1. Can you see this? Beautifully, now it has converted to 10, so it has removed the leading and the trailing white spaces from all the elements, and then eventually you have your needed string removed with the white space with you. So strip does that job, okay? It is very helpful functionality available for your string cleanup, okay? Cool. Guys, if you are able to understand, just a quick thumbs up in the chat so that we stay pretty much alive in the class. Vasanta, Ashish, I hope you guys are able to understand. Great, so I hope if there is any question, guys, please feel free to ask in the chat, so I'm more than happy to help you. Great, so moving to the next set of function available, again split. Split is again one of the very important functions, and trust me, it is getting used almost every other places in your data analysis. Okay, so what does strip is doing for you? Strip is actually using the list of elements, so whatever string I'm passing, it is gonna split up the things, split up the content into multiple sub pieces. Okay, and what will be the logic of split? That is something which we can define. I'll show you how we can do that. Okay, thank you so much, Hellfire, Vasanta, for confirming. I hope you guys are understanding this clearly. Great. So now what I want is, I want the split to be happening. So what is my split here? Okay. So again, so let me just quickly tell you how exactly this works. Let me print up the things and show it to you. So okay, now this is not a good example actually. So let me print it for you. So now, for example, I'm going to print so S of 1. Okay, so as of 1, I'm gonna print say one character. So I have Arpit Jain here, right? So now what I want the first name and the last name to be separated, right? So I want the first name and the last name to be separated. Very simple example. So I'll give you more things, but to give you a very simple example to start with, I'm gonna start. Now I have the first name and the last name together. I want this to be split together into different elements, right? So definitely the function which can be used here is split. So here S1 of 1. So that's going to be the one. So whatever element on top of which you want to pass the split, you want to call it on top of it. So dot split. Okay. So this split function takes an argument. Okay. So here it takes an argument which is basically like the pattern on which you want to make a split. Right. So just look at the documentation here. Just open the documentation. It'll be easier for you. So I think it's not. I don't know why it's not opening up. Okay, anyway. So in this split document, you can pass the pattern, okay? So this pattern could be what? This pattern could be a space. So here, by default, we can identify that this is a space, right? So I can also specify the space to be as a separator for my split up, or also any special characters. For example, suppose this one. Take Arpit at the rate 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I can use this as a separator at the rate to separate my string and the number. I can do that, right? So in this case, it will not be a white space. I can specify this as at the rate. So this will be my pattern on which I have to split up. Okay? And after split, what happens? It returns the list of split objects. So what does it return? It returns the list of split objects. So here, what are the objects here? Arpit will be my first object and Jain would be my second object, right? So I'll be having a list of split objects where the two sub-elements would be Arpit and Jain, right? So here it's not at the rate. I'll be having a space character. If I run it like this, can you see this? Now it is returning a list of elements, list of objects, the split objects. So here I have Arpit and I have Jain, right? So can you see this? Now I have two sub-elements defined here. Then I'll be having Arpit and Jain. Okay. So we have a couple of questions. Let me take that. So can we use SEP instead of split? SEP, I don't think we can use it. So SEP is used as a sub-argument for, separator for your other things. Like for example, if you load up a variable, load up a CSV file or XF file, so then you can specify the separator there. But directly you cannot use separator. So that for that function we have split. Abhay has a question. So, okay, Prashant says voice is break. I hope it is fixed now. I don't think there's a issue at my end. But again, guys, let me know if my voice is still breaking. So, guys, please confirm that. Meanwhile, I'll take up the question from Abhay. Hi, good evening, sir. How are you? I'm good. I want to learn data scientist. I have 1.6 years of experience. I want to go data science career. Why not, Abhay? Absolutely, you can do that. So again, there are certain mandatory skills. So this years of experience is not much. So definitely you can still apply as a fresher or maybe with a couple of years of experience, still fine. But again, to get a job in data science, always remember there are certain key skills which you need to get started with your journey. So those will always remain like statistics, machine learning, Python, SQL. These are your core skills. Okay. So try to have more of your understanding from that area. So where you can absolutely work from that field. So you can try to fix up your things. Okay. Oh my God. Let me check my voice. Just a minute. I'm really sorry, guys. I have just corrected that there was some issue at my end. Let me know if that it is fixed now. Guys, quickly let me know if the voice issue is fixed now. Guys, really apologies. I think there was some issue at my end, right? So I hope it is pretty much fixed. Okay. Really apologies for this. Okay, coming back to our content. Okay, so let's not waste time. So let's come back, and I hope you're still able to understand the concepts, right? So I mean, you were still able to understand. So do you want me to repeat the concept again, or are you able to understand what we have discussed so far? Quickly, guys, let me know if you want me to repeat a couple of things, and then, or if you want me to just keep on going. I'm okay with both the things. Okay. So I think people are fine. People are fine. So let's proceed. Okay. So I believe this is what I wanted to say. So split, what it does, it creates the list of split objects where I have individual sub elements from the split up part. Okay. So now, for example, let me show you the example of this Arpit at the rate 1234. Right. So now here, what I want is I want to use this at the rate as my split criteria to differentiate between my strings and the numbers, right? So first of all, I'll just comment this out, and now what I'll do is I want to find out this Arpit at the rate 1234. This is my fourth element, right? So I have to write S1 colon 3, right? So S1 colon 3, I'll have Arpit at the rate 1234, right? Now what I want to do is I want to split up this into two parts, and here the separator is not a space because space is not a separator here. My pattern is at the rate, right? So if you want to use at the rate, now in this case I'll be having two sub elements, Arpit and at the rate 1234, right? Now if you want to access 1234 only on top of this, right? How can you do that? So again, if you check the type of this, so what is the return object? This would be what? List, right? So it's a list element. So pretty much you can run on the list indexing whatever you have learned so far, right? So this entire thing is a list. So assume that this is nothing but this entire thing is nothing but a list. Okay. So now this list is giving you what? Is giving you two sub elements, right? 0 and 1. So indexing is again 0 is 1. So if you access 1, 2, 3, 4, I can simply write 1, or I can also write -1 as the last element. I can do that, right? So I'll be getting 1, 2, 3, 4. Making sense, guys? Any questions here? I can simply run my because it's returning me a list object, which is again a data type for me. So I can run the indexing on top of it very simply. So there is no fancy thing which I'm doing there. Okay, we have a question again up from Abhay. But I have experience application developed and games developed. I want to become data science career. Please help me. No, that's fine. So see again. So 1.5 year of experience is not, again, as I said, too much. Abhay. So what you have to do is you have to first upgrade your skills. Okay. So whatever you have won, that's fine. But if you want to get a career into data science, you have to first upgrade your skills. Okay. And what are your core skills? Stats, ML, Python, and SQL. And now once you have upgraded your skills, once you have learned the right techniques, then you must have to do some of the work in this field, right? And it's not mandatory that you need to work, do your work something in your professional environment. You can still have some, at least some projects done on your own, right? There are a lot of free websites available from where you can download the data and solve the problem, like Kaggle. You can participate in the hackathons, right? You can pretty much do those. So try to participate in such competitions, try to do some projects on your own, and then you can mention those projects in your resume. That's going to be your work, right? So this is how you can definitely proceed ahead, but sitting idle will not help. And the very first step to change your career would be, to start working in that direction, upgrade your skills. So that's what I would always recommend. Okay? Cool. So now a few more examples. So here what I want to do is, so now for example, I'm trying to split up the things based on the split up the content of the entire sentence, right? So now what I want is, I want a split up done on the sentences based on the space, right? So I want all of the individual words to be printed separately. So I have my name is Arpit Jain written here, and if I run on top of this split like this, so I'll be having my 5 individual characters, 5 individual words. So my name is and all that, right? And now if I simply put it under this, if I print the characters, I'll be having a list. So this list will be by the words I have available. So my name is Arpit Jain, right? So now for example, if I say that, okay, reverse the word for me. right? So how will you reverse the word, right? You can simply reverse this also. How can you reverse it? Simply put colon colon -1. You know that, right? So now it is Jain Arpit is name my, right? So you're just reversing the string for you, right? So you have just reversed the string, and now if I say that reverse the string and then make a sentence also on top of it, you can also join this, pretty much join. So how the join works, so you can write this on top of this join function. So write it on join, and how to join, you're gonna join based on a space, right? So like this. So now you have a sentence, Arjan Arpit is name my, right? So I'm just pretty much reverse the string for me, right? So reverse the string of words. So it's like simple. First I've split, I have reversed the words, and then I've joined on top of this, right? So I mean, it's again pretty much simple. So what is split giving you is, it is giving you the kind of entire string into the split up objects, and thus the object data type is simply my list. It is getting into you the data into a list format, right? And that list, doing anything on list is anyway very easy. We have seen that, right? List is a very flexible data type which we have. Okay, cool. So likewise here I have another data type here. So another thing which is more of a string. So I have two sentences here. So my name is Arpit Jain and I live in India, right? Now in this case, what I want to do is, I don't want every word, but I want every sentences to be as different sub elements for me, right? So in this case also, this is pretty much possible. So what I can do in this case is, this would be my first word. So my name is Arpit Jain. So I put a split on dot. So where is dot? So this is my dot, right? So based on this dot, I'll be getting the splits happening here. So if I do it like this, so I'll be getting how many elements? 2 elements, right? Because I only have 2 elements, one on the left side of this dot and one on the right side of this dot, right? And if I print these elements, so what I'll get, my name is Arpit Jain as my first element, and I live in India as my second element. Also, one thing to importantly notice here, guys, this space, so this space which is before I, right, and after dot is also coming here. If you have noticed, this is also coming here. You see that? So this space is also this space is also a space, is also a character for me. So dot will only take from that particular character. So anything after this or before this will be your sub characters for me. So here, this space will become a leading space for my another the split up objects which I have. Okay, it's something which is very important. Great, cool. So now moving ahead, I'm moving to my another something which is very important functionality available in string, which is more of a cat or a concatenate object. Okay, so what does a cat does? So cat is nothing, it is doing a concatenation of my elements using a separate using a operator. So whatever separator we give, so based on that we're gonna concatenate the elements. So for example here, look at this. So I'm just gonna put say character like, for example, what to give, man? So just a space. Let me give just a space, for example. So if I do it like this, right? So now what will happen? This is not clear, so I'll write this at the rate, for example. Right. So all the elements is now getting added together as a different. So now what I'm doing is, on top of this S1, I'm concatenating all the elements using a separator at the rate. Okay, so for example, this Arpit is my first element, right? And the second element is Arpit Jain. So I have a at the rate in between, and with here Arpit Jain, right? And now again an at the rate, and then Rohit is getting added. So all the sub elements of a string object is getting appended, concatenated based on a separator for me, right? So for example, again I can have this any separate, so I can put this like, you know, pipe and all that, and right, you know, let's write. So you can see this. Now I have all the sub elements being added here together. So it's more like identifying the elements whatever I have and then concatenating it in a single piece of information for me. You got it? That's what cat does. Does that make sense? Cool. Great. So let's proceed. So that's what cat does. Now again I have another operator called as contains. So what is contain giving me? Contain is giving me Contain is giving me the kind of information. I pass the pattern in this, and it returns true or false, which is again pretty much clear with the function name itself, contain. So whether if the pattern is within the string, it's going to return true, or if it is not there, then it's going to return false. Okay. So now, for example, here I have S1. So this is my series. So I have this entire the same elements. Now, what if I say S2 dot string dot contains, and if I'm passing what a space here, right? So if I get it like this, I'll obviously get true because here I have space in this, right? So I'm getting it true here. And for the second one, and again I have a space, I'm getting true here. For the third one, again I have spaces both at the end, so I'm getting true here. Again here in this case, I have a leading, I have a trailing space, so I have again true here. NP9 is anyway a NaN. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't have a space, so it is false. Likewise, for all the sub elements, it is giving me whether that particular pattern is existing or not. For example, if I pass it here, like say at the rate, right? Pretty much possible. So if I write at the rate, so I'll be getting wherever it is present. So it's only present at this string, right? So I'll be getting true here, else everything is false. Cool. Yes, please, Abhay. Why not? Please, you can always talk to me. You can put up your question in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer. So I'm trying to answer your question. So please try to put up your question. Okay. Great. That's 7. And then we have. Okay. So I think few more. Let's try to quickly finish that. So we have finished contain. So we have something called as replace also. So replace, for example, I want to replace a particular character in my string with another character. So for example, here what I pass, definitely in this case I have to pass the existing one and also with which I want to replace it, right? So for example, here I want to replace at the rate with dollar, for example, right? I can pretty much do that. So now, for example, can you see this? Now this function, now remember guys, it will not give you an error wherever this pattern does not exist. So if it exists, it is going to replace the thing. But if it does not exist, it's not going to give you an error. It will still print you the result, okay? It will not give you the error. Wherever it is present, it will execute for that string only. But for the other one, it will just skip that part and it won't replace anything as such. Make sense? So this is what I have for replace. So I have the replace function available. So all the things are pretty much being confined. So whatever data I pass, I'll be getting it in top of my at the rate functions. Okay, so I have a question from Vilas, and I think he says, sir, fresher jobs available in AIML. Yes, why not? Fresher jobs are pretty much available. So you have jobs like you can also go for internships. So internships are also pretty much available. Even the fresher jobs, you can pretty much apply as a junior analyst or entry level analyst or entry level data scientist. I mean, see, hierarchies would sub-exist, right? It's not like jobs are not there. Jobs are pretty much there. It's just like you have to find the right one for you. So don't think that the jobs are not there. Jobs are pretty much there. And jobs are there for all the different hierarchy levels, okay? It's just like you have to you have to click the right job. You have to clear the interviews. That's pretty much what is required here. Okay, make sense? Cool. So that's pretty much it for the replace function. So replace is nothing but you can replace a character. So whatever character it is. For example, suppose if I want to replace say ARP, for example, this pattern. So ARP, A caps and RP with say 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. I can pretty much do that. So now this ARP only is getting replaced with 1, 2, 3, 4 and IT remains. Likewise here also 1, 2, 3, 4 IT and then 1, 2, 3, 4 IT. So wherever this particular pattern occurs, whatever I'm passing it here, it's going to replace only that pattern with what I want. Okay, pretty much flexible in that per se. So that's what replace is for you. Okay. So next we have a function called as repeat. So repeat is also very interesting function. So what repeat does, it's going to repeat the element with the specified number of times I am passing it. So for example, I want the strings to be repeated 3 times each. Okay, so I can use a repeat of 3. So here what you can see, this Arpit is getting repeated 3 times. Arpit. So like Arpit, Jain, Arpit, Jain. So whatever I have the string, right? the same string will be getting repeated 3 times. So obviously on the nan number, which is np.nan, you cannot replace anything with nan, so it will still remain the same, right? So obviously it's pretty much understandable. So whatever I have as a string, it will be multiplied, it will be getting repeated those many number of times, whatever I pass this as an argument here. Very simple function, nothing fancy here. Okay. So now again the next function is count. So count here is, it returns the count of appearance of patterns in each element. So for example, whatever pattern I pass on top of my count, it's going to return the number of count of that pattern in the string. So again, it's a very interesting function. Let me show it to you. So for example, can you see this? So for the very first string, I have what? I'm passing it A, right? So I have only one A here, right? Likewise, if I'm passing A for the second one, I have 2 capital A's. So for example, if I pass, say, small a, now look at the difference. So here in this case, so small a and capital A are 2 different characters for me, guys. Okay, so they are 2 different characters. Don't assume that they are the same character. They are 2 different characters for me. So when I passed the capital A, it returned the count of A for me, which is capital A return, right? But if I pass small a, it's not returning anything for me, because there is no small a in this. So in Arpit, I have a capital A, right? I don't have a small a here. So that is the reason why it is always important that the casing of my the characters are very important in strings for pandas, for Python. Okay, that casing is very important. So here I'm passing it over my Arpit, so which is capital A or small a, depending on that the count is getting figured out for me. Okay, that's pretty much how things are working in count. So then next we have 2 set of functions, starts with and ends with. Again, remember guys, this is again a very interesting function. So you tend to use these 2 functions, starts with and ends with, again quite oftenly, and the reason to that is you end up using this because you again have to perform some analysis. For example, suppose if you have a condition that if my string starts with a particular pattern, if my particular kind of this starts with a pattern, then only perform this, else just skip through this and do not perform anything, right? So to figure out such condition, to execute such condition, we always use starts with or ends with. So if a string starts with or ends with a particular pattern, then load up. So for example, suppose if you have assume this scenario. So you have a directory, okay? So you have a directory or a folder basically, okay? And in this folder, you have many files, okay? So many files, such as you have say 10 JPG files, right? And then you have 20 tar files, okay? And then you have 30, for example, you have zip files, and then you have then you have again 15 you have CSV files, and then you have again say 10 or 20 TXT files, okay? So this is a folder for you, okay? And you have these multiple different files available in this, right? Now your objective is, so in this directory, whatever CSV files are there, you have to read those CSV files, right? So how can I do that? So I can simply find out if my file name ends with, so if file name dot ends with what? Ends with .csv. Simple, right? So this is my file, this is my, so I'll just simply write print file name, for example, right? So simple, something like this, right? So I can figure out the file name for me. How can I figure out? So it was just using the simple function file name dot ends with, and how this file name is a string for me. Eventually it's a file name, it's a string, right? But file is a CSV file, but file name it's a string for me. So whatever, like abc.csv or jpg dot whatever the CSV file, right? So that name it's a string for me, correct? So on that name I can run this function dot ends with. So by using this ends with .csv, which is a pattern for me, ultimately I'll figure out whether that file is CSV or not. So that is a practical application of this ends with or starts with. I hope you are getting my point, right? The reason this is the reason I showed you this example, but this is how you do it, right? So for example, if my S1 starts with capital A, for example here, right? So in this case, it will return me true and false, right? So this is true, yes, this is true, this is not false because it's starting with R, right? This is false. So likewise for all such elements, I'll be getting simpler true and false for both starting and the end character. So if it starts with this element, whatever I pass, it's gonna be true, or in this case, if it's going to end with this, I'm getting the the subsequent number here. So true and false. Okay, we have a question here from Vasanta, and the question is why we use Jupyter Notebook instead of Python IDE. Okay, very good question. Very good question. Okay. See, again, first of all the platforms are similar. So I won't comment on platforms that whether this is good or that is good. Wherever you are comfortable, it's pretty much good to go for anywhere. Okay, so you have like multiple platforms. You have VS Code, you have PyCharm, you have Spider, you have Anaconda, you have Notebook. You can run the simple Python file also in a command prompt. The simple whatever you want. Okay, pretty much fine. But yeah, there's a difference in how you see the output. So suppose if you have a Python file, okay, so file can have what? So file can have, I mean, in the file, the benefit which you have using a notebook, it's a rough notebook for you, right? So you can write a piece of code and you can see the results. For example, here I'm just writing this one piece of code. When I execute it, this particular cell is getting executed and I have the result for this particular block only, right? It is independent of my previous block, isn't it? So that is the reason why notebooks are very helpful when you are kind of in your learning phase, or when even in the companies when you are developing something, when you're doing some experiments, doing some analysis, doing some research, right? Notebooks are very friendly. So it's very friendly. So we tend to have notebooks prepared so that we can take an idea. Okay, this is how we experimented. Now ultimately, so you don't use notebook for your deployments eventually. So you always use Python files only. So at the end, after all the experimentations on notebook, we're gonna take the whatever work we have done on notebook and convert into a Python file, respective Python files, like in the sequence which we have done, right? So eventually that will be used, but for now, for the practice purpose, it is mostly on notebooks. Okay, cool. So we have again another quickly 3 set of other functions available. So for example, we have find. Okay, so find is again very important function. So it returns the first position of the first occurrence of the pattern. So for example, suppose if I find A, so this is what it is telling me, whether the pattern which I'm passing it over a find function, okay, so that pattern is there or not. And if there are multiple such occurrences of this pattern, it's going to return only the first position of the first occurrence. So wherever this pattern has occurred first, it's going to return only that sequence. For example, here, look at this. So can you see this? Here, yes. So s1.find A. So here I have in this case the 0th. So the very first position, which is I have it here. So -1 means it does not have it. So here in Rohit, I do not have it, right? So it's going to be -1. So likewise 0 in this I have at the very first character. Suppose if I pass say T. Okay, so now here this is at the 4th index. So I mean the index 4 for me. And likewise here again 4, 4, 4 and all that. So and here it is NaN, and for this -1, so in this 1, 2, 3, 4 it is not there. So it's going to give me the first occurrence of that instance. So for example, you can see this if I pass A, right? So here in this I have 2 A's, right? So I have here at this first position also and this position also. So, but it is only returning me the one single 0. So I mean basically the first occurrence of this particular pattern, right? Similarly to the extension of this function, I have FindAll. So FindAll does, it returns the list of all such occurrences. So for example, now in this case, if I pass find, instead of doing find, if I do FindAll, right, it's going to give me all such occurrences. So wherever, so here you can see this, I have 2 such occurrences, right? So pretty much giving me the list of all occurrences of the pattern. So this is what I'll get in FindAll. That's the difference. Okay. Okay, so I think I have last set of few functions available. I'll quickly show them and then maybe we can wrap up. Right. Cool. So let me just quickly give you these 4 different functions and let's wrap up. So we have SwapCase, is lower, is upper, and is numeric. Okay. So this again very friendly functions, not very tricky functions. So SwapCase, what it does, simple. It is very simple. So wherever it is lower, it will convert into upper. Wherever it is upper, it will convert into lower, right? So for example, here look at this Arpit. So I have first A as upper and the last RPIT as lower, right? So as soon as I run SwapCase, so s1.str.swapCase, it is gonna return me. So this is my output here. So I'm gonna, I'm printing this again. So here I have this Arpit got converted into this small a, then RPIT. So wherever it is upper, it'll move it to lower, and lower gets converted into upper, right? So swapping of my cases of my individual elements here, right? It's pretty simple as that, okay? And it is valid for all the sub elements, all the characters of my sub elements, okay? As simple as that. Likewise, is lower and is upper, it is returning me true and false. Is low, it's like more of a question, right? Whether it is lower or not, right? So it's going to return me, kind of true and false kind of a thing. So if it is lower, yes, you can see this, everything is in lower case, right? So it is true. Yes. Is lower? Yes, it is true. Yes, it is in lower. But here in this case, I have one as capital uppercase, and so although I have lower cases, but I do have upper cases as well. So it means that it only return true when all the characters of my string is in the lower case, which is in this case it is false, right? So now here I'll be getting false here, right? Likewise, so I'll be getting for Rohit for the false, because only R, although I have other as lower, but R is still upper, right? So still I'll get false. Likewise, same thing on upper also, pretty much fine. So if I run it on upper, so yes, so this is upper all capitals, so I have true. Otherwise this is false because I have this RPIT as small, right? So lowercase, so I'll still get false here. Likewise, is numeric, again a good function. So if you have strings converted into numbers, numbers converted into strings, so this is the function which you can check. So for example here 1 2 3 4, right? This is a number, but converted into, maybe by mistake, or maybe maybe kind of still by purpose, but still it has to identify at some point of time, for example, as a number. So this is the function for you. So is numeric. So if you're going to use is numeric, it is going to check. So here it's going to return true. So because this is a number ultimately, right? Here it is returning you true for you, right? So guys, this is a very exhaustive list of Pandas strings function, and I wanted to really cover that. The reason to that is it is important for you to understand these string functions on Pandas, and I hope this session was pretty much interesting for you. This set of functions, guys, it is very exhaustive, and I believe if you can really remember some of these functions, it's going to make your data analysis work quite easier on Pandas strings, right? And how to call the functions .str.function name, okay? So do remember these functions, and you can always refer back to this video, and if you have any concerns or anything on any of these functions. So I've tried to give you as many examples as possible. Okay, with this, guys, thank you so much. Let's wrap up for the day. It's quite an extensive session, so we have covered all the available functions for our Pandas series. So we have covered the Pandas series today. So tomorrow we'll start with Pandas group by. So Pandas group by is again a very important topic. So we'll quickly cover Pandas group by, and I will talk about how exactly we can do things on Pandas group by. Okay, so let's do that, guys, tomorrow. Great. Thank you so much. Till that, have a good evening and stay safe.